Hey everybody, I'm Zee Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at a card game in which you'll be making up most of the rules. The game is blank. In this very simple card game, the players are all trying to empty their hand of cards by matching color or number. That's it, you've seen it before, it's been done to death. But in this one, you are going to be making up your own cards every time you win a game. If you're the one who wins a game, you get to write up a new card and have it in the game for next time. And the more you play, the more this version of the game is supposed to become your version of the game. So, let me show you how it works, just to give you an overview. It's very simple, as I said, very straightforward concept here. Then we'll come on back after that and I'll tell you if I think it's an effective game at what it attempts to do, and who I think this would be good for. Here we go. The game comes with two decks of cards. These that are the ones that the players are going to be playing from their hands, and they are going to have a color and a number, sometimes an illustration, sometimes text. And then these, which are the rules that the players must follow, and they will have an if, so an effect that will trigger, and then this is the trigger, and then the effect itself at the bottom of the card, all right? And so to set up the game, we are going to shuffle these, the rules. We're going to reveal 3 of them, and we are going to give each player a hand of 7 cards from the shuffled deck here. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm just going to give everybody a few. I'm not going to worry too much about it. And then 3 rules. So we're going to go ahead and reveal 3 of these, and they say several things that are, again, triggers in the game. So we'll put those there, set the rest of these aside for now, and we'll flip over 1 from the deck and put it into play. And the players are quite simply trying to get rid of all the cards in their hand, all right? So we nominate a start player. That player is going to be able to play. And so my choices are, when I'm playing, I have to play the same color or the same number, and I can play as many as I want to as long as they all follow that rule. So for example, I could play this 5 here on top of the 3 because they are the same color. Or I could play any 3s I have, and again, they can just all go on there. If I have several 3s, I can put them all on there. But I have to make sure that I pick specifically the last one, because the one on top might trigger some kind of effect. And there's a few different effects in the game. And I have to keep in mind that if I do one of these things, then that also triggers an effect. So for example, if a 1 is played, then all the players have to put their hand on the draw pile. And whoever does that last is going to draw a card, which is a penalty, because you are trying to get rid of all of your cards. This one over here, a player says another player's name, then the player who said the name has to draw 2 cards as a penalty, so kind of a party game style card. And then this one, when a 5 is played, you change the direction of play, so we'll start going counterclockwise instead of clockwise. So that's it. And so I would play a card. If you cannot play on your round, on your turn, so for example, this player here has no blues, no 5s, then you instead are going to draw a card, and it would be the next player's turn. And that's pretty much it for the game. This continues until someone is completely out. So this player is going to play a couple of 5s here, so I'll put this one on top. I just, have to make sure that everyone knows that my plays are legal, but that's it. And that's it. That just keeps going until someone is out, and then they win the game. So let me find some of the cards here that would trigger specific actions and show you some of those. Now, largely, as you can see, the deck is empty, especially when you are, only a few games into the game. But sometimes you do get cards that have special powers on them. And those are either special powers that already came pre-printed in the game, or I keep finding some of the ones I've created, actually, or they are the ones you've created yourself, because in this game, when you win, you get to make up a new card, and that card is going to be in the game from that point on. So in this case, we have this card that says you keep this card in front of you, and from now on you can ignore all game effect cards. That's one that came pre-made. And so we've got the fixer-upper here. Search the discard pile for a card of your choice, play it immediately with no penalty. So there's that one, and that kind of thing. And then you have, again, all the illustrations. And then sometimes you have cards you make yourself, like this one, which is called Flip the Rules. And I wrote in it, you may switch one of the active rules, meaning one of these three. So whenever someone plays this card on top, then they are going to be able to, I could look at this and go, you know, I hate speed rules. I really don't like this. So I'm going to bury that and flip over a new one. And this is also a speed one, unfortunately. So it's, if someone plays red, all the players have to put a finger on their nose and the last one draws a card. All right. So we all got to do that. And again, people just make up their own rules. This one, Stung, and I just like the illustration, so I went with this, that I wrote, choose a player to play. This player must discard at least 2 cards for the rest of the game. Nasty stuff. And so that's basically it. It's a very light, very simple game, but you are going to be adding cards to it, and you can have those cards be whatever you want to the more you play. And every time someone wins, they get to create a new card. And your specific deck of blank here is going to evolve from game to game to game to game with your family or friends. You can even, besides these rules cards, they give you a whole stack of cards that are blank. And so you could even create more rules if you want to. Oh, that's a written one. So you can create more of those and then stick them in the pile that you're going to be drawing the rules from and have those come into the game as well. And so that's all there is to it. Very simple. You now understand the concept of blank. Let's go back up top and let me tell you what I think about it, who I think this would be good for. Alright, so before I launch into what I think of the game and some of the aspects, breaking it down using my target audience system here, I do want to mention that I think this game is for a very specific audience, which is probably not the audience watching this, unfortunately, because I think that audience would really enjoy this game. It's a game for folks who enjoy very casual games, folks who enjoy Uno, folks who are not gamers, people who like classic mass market games, you know, and have no problem with that style of game because they don't know anything else and they're perfectly content to play that. Not that there's anything wrong with those games. They don't have to get into any more games, right? So I think a lot of people are going to look at this and go, wow, the gameplay, the core system here is simplistic. There's nothing there. It's not revolutionary. It is an original. That's all true for people who know a lot about games. And it's just true in general, right? But I think there's a lot of fun to be had here for folks who like Uno and want something that they can make their own. That can be the family's copy of Uno, you know, or what have you. So let's launch into some of these things, okay? Thematic ties. The game has no theme, really. It's a blank game that you make your own. The theme is, it's blank. Like Uno has no theme, like most card games have no theme that are mass market games. It's not sci-fi, which could put some people off. They don't care about sci-fi things. It's not fantasy. There's not going to be a big dragon putting you off. Though you could make it that, I guess. You could, write your own stuff on there, make it a pseudo sci-fi game, pseudo fantasy game. But I like that the theme is, hey, we're a card game. And that's all right. That works for what it is, you know. The aesthetics, I think, are great. The components are nice. The cards are a little on the thin side, but the components are well made. I think the packaging is cool. It's actually got, it's sort of a slipcase, kind of. So this comes off, right? And it's got that, kind of like a book or something. And then you've got this holding both decks of cards. One thing I like is that on the back of this, on the back of that, it's just the back of the box, as you would see in the store. And the back of the slip that goes inside the other part there, they give you some ideas for cards. So if you are, not coming up with anything yourself, as you win a game and are supposed to invent a new card, well, they've got some suggestions here for you, and they even give you a link to go to their website and see more ideas and suggestions. That's cool. I like it because it sparks that imagination if you are drawing, no pun intended, a blank. And I like that a lot of the cards are going to not just be completely empty, but they give you a piece of, an illustration, something to, again, spark the imagination. That's cool, because it's going to get people kind of going. And I think once you are into the game, it'll sort of flow a lot more easily. The games are quick, too, so I'll talk about that in just one second. But overall, the aesthetics, I think, are nice. The game is well produced, it's well illustrated, it's clear to understand. I like it. I like the aesthetics. The replayability and the scalability. The game scales fine. You can play with as many or as few as you want to, much like games like Uno. The replayability is interesting because I think the replayability, this game almost thrives on this idea of you playing it a lot. You kind of have to if you intend to modify the game a lot and make it your version of the game. And so I think for people who get into it, for those folks that are going to have a weekly game night, let's say, and play this 2 or 3 times, you know, after dinner, make up a few new cards, put it away, come back next week, do it again. I think it could be a really fun, engaging activity. I actually, one of the cards I made up is one that when you play that card on top of the deck, you draw the top card from the draw deck, and if it's blank, you immediately invent a new card. And then you do something with it. I forget if you keep it or what. I wrote it in there. And I basically did that because I want the deck to become filled faster. And so you could do that, you know. So I like that. I like that you can kind of shape it and modify it. But I think as far as replayability goes, it's either 0, because you'd hate the game and it's just not for you, or it's going to be a lot, you know, and this will become your friends or family's copy of the game. And you'll draw, you know, you write the name of who made up the card. You could even put the date on there next to the name if you want to remember that. That's cool. You know, there's a lot of built-in replayability. Though the game, if you don't get into it, you're just not going to enjoy it. The game length, and if there's any downtime, anything like that, I think this is one of those areas where this should, you know, just blow Uno and games like that away, you know, because the game is really fast. And Uno sometimes can draw out like a, you know, like a knife. It's just, it takes a long time to finish the game up. In this game, you're going to play usually 10, 15 minutes, and then you're done. Unless you've created cards that elongate that gameplay, you should be good. You could even, you know, write in some cards that make the game shorter if you're feeling like it's going too long. So I like that. And I think it is the kind of game you can play multiple times in a row, making up a new card, the winner making up their new card between rounds, shuffle up and play again. You know, that's cool. The ease of play, if there's any fiddliness, any weird design choices, iconography, anything like that. The only thing I guess I have a slight issue with is that they advertise the game as you can make this game whatever you want. You can make this a party game, basically a straight up party game. You can make this a strategic game, maybe. You can have a combination of feelings, you know. My only issue is what you get out of the box already has pieces of all of that. So you cannot really make it fully silly or fully, you know, strategic or whatever. Because there's always that one card that is, oh, touch your nose when someone plays this. Okay, well, I don't want a game that has speed elements. Well, some of them are in there. And yes, you could remove the rules, but you cannot mess up the deck, you know, because you need all the colors and all the numbers, and some of them are in there. So it's my only issue as far as weird design choices. Other than that, it's whatever you want it to be. And you're going to come up with the cards. So it's cool, you know. But they do give you kind of a, they have to, I guess. They have to tell you what's possible, so they give you a sample of everything. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and randomness and luck, of course. This game has a lot of that. A lot of randomness and a lot of luck. It is that kind of game. You already know if you don't like that game, right? But I think the game does have a lot of people who would like it. I think this is the kind of game that could have mass appeal. It just might not be the people watching this video. But I think there's probably someone you know, maybe you yourself, but there's probably someone you know who would get a kick of having this in the family or among their group of friends and playing it a bunch and creating their own deck of cards, you know. I think ultimately, I think my final thoughts here are, is this game good? No, is it a good game? No, it's not much of a game at all, right? It's like a silly kind of activity style game, right? Again, I keep coming back to Uno. It's just the most obvious sort of comparison I have, and you probably know Uno. It's that style of game, with this idea of you creating your own deck, which is also not necessarily brand new. Other games have done this, but this one manages to mix those two things well. So I think a lot of people would enjoy this game. People who don't know what legacy means, right? Those people would get a kick out of this game. Out of playing before any of the cards are filled and out of playing after they are filled. And sort of that journey, you know, to have everyone at home make up their own cards. Or maybe, you know, you could play at college with your friends and you make up your own deck, you know. You can turn this game into anything you want it to be. Mostly. And that's pretty cool. I think there's value here. I could definitely see this kind of game being available at big stores that sell these kinds of mass market games and it doing well. I don't think it's going to, but I think it kind of should be, you know, it should. Because as far as the concept goes, it manages to both stay simplistic and simple and yes, not appeal to a lot of gamers, and be clever. And keep that pretty simple and not bogged down and push the people who liked it originally out by becoming complex. So overall, I don't think it's a game that's necessarily good, but I appreciate the concept here at play, and I think this game should do well if it finds its audience. So that's it for me. That is Blank, a very interesting concept and one that's executed very well.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.